Welcome to Gray Overload, and we've talked a lot about AI, especially Nvidia with AI and what they've been able to do with the hardware side of things. Then you also have AMD, and we've talked quite a bit about where AMD is going, right? You have a lot of their software stack is conducive to AI between the two of them. They both have yearly cadences, and they've both been putting a lot of effort into it. You have CUDA, then you have ROCm, and they're putting a lot of effort between NVIDIA and AMD to really deliver products for these big businesses, right, that want to create these AI clusters and really do performance, right? A lot of memory, all this other stuff with it. They've been really pushing it between the NVIDIA server stacks with their AI to AMD also doing that now, with AMD having their AI day with the MI 355. They got a lot of stuff going, but one company has really been missing from this, and that is Intel, right? We heard a little bit about Intel with the B60 and the B50 cards, and now Intel did just have their AI day or whatever. Everyone's having an AI day now, right? We just got to have AI days because that's what we're going to. Is instead of just a tech day where you describe everything, let's have an AI day. But they will be expanding their ARC lineup for that edge and AI market in Q4. Now, that's great, right? Maybe we're going to see some of the same gaming side GPUs maybe at that launch too. Maybe we're going to get a B770 or something at that time. It would be kind of interesting to see what Intel is going to be able to do. My guess is that if they do have it and they're in that 50% margin, like their CEO said, is that the AI cards will be a little bit higher to maybe offset the margin that the gaming side needs. Now, that's just a guess for me on that. But I was thinking about this a little bit more when as this came out here, and looking at what they're doing is why, I get that you want, your workstation, your consumer side, and you also want AI, right? A lot of money in AI. But are you going to be able to show off these cards and be able to have even the software stack, right? They have one API, and I've talked really good things about one API over the years. And I really want to see this kind of take off. I think it's a great idea to have one API across everything. Now, you have CUDA, which is entrenched, and you have ROCm, which is gaining steam, and AMD is doing a lot of good work there with ROCm. So is one API going to be picking up that steam and being able to compete in those areas where Nvidia is really entrenched, right? That's what they're trying to break through here, right? Getting to compete with Nvidia in this AI market. Are they going to be able to do that with any reasonable speed, or is this going to be a longer game to be able to do it? Now, one way they could do this and help out is to reduce those prices, reduce that margin on these cards, if that's what they're serious about, to break into these markets to really compete against Nvidia in here. Now we'll see what really happens, right? The CEO says one thing of what his goal is, and maybe he realizes that in order to break into a market, you got to be a little bit lower to really compete here, because right now Nvidia is selling their AI chips for kind of what they demand, right? We see their earnings. They're doing a lot of stuff there, making a lot of money there. We see AMD trying to break in. Now there's other parties to AI too, right? I wouldn't put it past anybody here that they might even create their own chips, right? Between whether it's Microsoft, OpenAI. OpenAI has stated that they want to make their own chips. Amazon already makes their own chips, not necessarily for AI, but who knows what they could do there. Meta, and everyone is, if they can get their own chips, they're looking at that. Now, maybe some companies realize that it's a lot of work to bring that all up, and they don't continue it, but you got to worry about that as well. And so while I hope that Intel is successful, part of my thing is this a little late in this cycle? And I don't mean the whole overall AI cycle, which that's another story we could talk about a different day. I'm talking about this generation cycle, right? If they're still on the battle mage architecture, it's taken them a long time to get out the higher end SKUs. And let's say they don't actually ever come out with the higher end SKUs for consumers, and they're just going to stick to it with AI. it's still a long time for that to come out. And while you don't have the consumer side where, some tech enthusiasts like me would be like, you know what, I'm going to take it, tinker with it, see what it can do for AI, and play some games on it. It might be a little fun, might be frustrating at times, but I'm willing to deal with that. Now, maybe that is what Intel is hoping for. Maybe they allow gaming on it, right? But if they just go strictly AI, you don't have the entrenchedness of Nvidia, and we don't know how great your software stack is, and you might be a little behind the eight ball here. And so there's my concerns for this. Well, I like to see a company more introduced. I'm just following this whole sequence of hardware release this generation, and it just seems kind of odd from Intel. They had some opportunity here, especially with AMD and Nvidia not releasing everything last year in 2024, and they're released a lot of stuff. Just came out here. The 5050 is just coming out, and we're getting here in July. So they had a 6 month period where they could have introduced that, let's say, set B770 in that area, and all of a sudden, guess what? You have some competition here, and you got some sales that maybe help build it up. And then when you release that AI side of it, those edge products later this year, it kind of makes a lot of sense. And those are some of my concerns here for Intel, that they were, while they may have a good product, we don't know. We'll have to see where it lands here. That this generation cycle, if they're not going to be, tight on the next generation, are they going to be left more behind? AMD and Nvidia are moving to a yearly cadence overall. Now, we'll see how good that yearly cadence is, and I'm guessing that the yearly cadence isn't so much for GPUs, as they were saying. It's a lot more for AI, and to have that yearly cadence on AI. Graphics side will just benefit from that yearly cadence, because both Nvidia and now AMD are basically unified architectures, right? They're releasing everything. Well, I guess Nvidia could decide just to create the high-end chips and skip a generation if they really wanted to. Maybe they do that, but AMD with the unified architecture usually does. I mean, I guess they could do the same thing, but I think they'll be working the whole stack here, which is going to be interesting as that finally gets unified, right? UDNA for AMD, right? I got some questions there as AMD does this. I think CDNA is still for the next generation MI400, but then you're going to UDNA, and UDNA sounds like it's going to be more for the next gen consoles for sure. So we'll see where this all goes. But getting back to Intel on this, right? I need to see a little bit more. Now, granted, they're just giving you a little hint, and we're going to be in Q4. But when Q4, we're already, what, 6 months out from, maybe 3 months out from an Nvidia chip, maybe 6 months out from an AMD chip. At what point do the people that are looking at that say, well, we see where the roadmap is right now? AMD and Nvidia have been more reliable in the roadmap. That's a thing for enterprise. They want to see your roadmap and sticking to it. And I have some questions, because I'm sitting here going, well, they're a little bit faster, so what does that mean? What do we do? Are we going to jump onto something new? These are things that you start thinking about. You're like, maybe we just skip the Intel side to see where they really are until the next generation, which is a thing as well, right? You have to try to get early adopters into this. And so Intel has a lot to prove here, and they do have another quarter to go to prove that, right? We just started Q3 today. And so 1 quarter to kind of get this and show where they're coming, because they say it's coming in Q4 2025. Of course, that could mean December 30th. Right, 31st, right, the last of the month, last of the Q4. But if they are, coming out any reasonable earlier in Q4, they got, 1 quarter to go, and we'll see what they have, what they can deliver. And I think I like to see more competition, right? I'm not trying to go through and just be down on Intel. What I'm trying to do is, logically work through this of, is this a good, is this going to work out? Are you putting forth the effort to make this work out? And I'm just not seeing it fully right now of why it, like, how is it going to work out here until I'm hoping that in the next quarter they can put that together so it does work out, because I really like the competition. I really wanted better graphics competition. I mean, yes, they have a cheap card with a good amount of RAM. It's just, where's the rest of the stack? I think that you needed the rest of the stack to really help you out. Even if it was just mid-range, it didn't have to be high end. It just had to be mid-range more, and not just the low end focus. I think they had a really opportunity there, and I guess I'm wanting more from Intel and put a little bit more I mean, a little bit more release in, because I'm sure they're giving them good enough effort, right, on this. You think? I hope. And so it's just, I wanted more from them, and I'm just disappointed, I guess, and I really wish that they had more for us. So thank you so much for watching Rear Overload. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below about what Intel will be coming out with their AI stuff. Will they have that consumer card later this year, or are we all waiting for Celestion for that to be, or Celestial to be, for that to be able to come out? Thank you so much for that. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, hit that bell icon. It really does help with the channel. Until next time, God bless.